How do you know which ideas are worth developing into long-term thought leadership? I'm really excited. I've kicked Amy out of the studio today and I brought in someone I've known for a very long time named Jessica Rhodes. She's going to introduce herself and we're going to dive into this idea. How do we know which of our ideas have legs? When is it time to retire them? When is it time to develop them? So, welcome everyone. Please buckle up. It's going to be a great show today.
This is the Grow Your Business for Good show. We're your hosts. I'm Shannon Hernandez.
And I'm Amy Hager.
This show explores what happens when a business outgrows its message and what it takes to rebuild messaging systems that carry the full depth of your work.
Each episode breaks down how messaging shapes trust, authority, and decision-making, and why many established businesses find themselves explaining more while being understood less. We focus on the strategic shifts founders and leadership teams need to make when clarity alone isn't enough, so their expertise comes through without oversimplifying it.
Well, I am honored to be here because you and your co-hosts have such great chemistry. So thank you for welcoming me on to the show. I'm the founder and CEO of Interview Connections. We're the first ever podcast booking agency. So I'm excited to dive into this topic because I've helped thousands of coaches and business owners over the last 13 years develop their thought leadership, amplify their authority, figure out the right messaging that will build their business and just bring them overall fulfillment. So I can't wait to dive into this.
I love that. So, for anyone who doesn't know, could you just tell us a little bit about what is a podcast booking agency? How did you get started and why do you love doing this work?
Yeah, well, a podcast booking agency gets people on podcasts. That's what we do. I'm thinking about it as like a PR firm, but we are just specific to podcasts. So that is the only type of media that we book on. And I started this business when I was 25 years old. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, was a new mom. My now 13-year-old was a baby, and my dad showed me how to start a virtual assistant business. So I started out as what we in the online biz called VAs. I was a virtual assistant. My dad was my first client and he asked me to book him on podcasts. And so I just took that as a task and I started doing it. And as I was reaching out to podcast hosts, they were like, "Oh, nobody's ever pitched me before." And now I'm like joking that I need to write a book or something called Never Been Pitched about like the first year like podcasting. But yeah, podcasters hadn't been pitched. It was not Podcasts were not a medium that PR firms were touching. They were just too small. They were not aligned for people that were hiring PR firms. So there was just kind of this open space in the industry. And that's what led me to start Interview Connections because I was working with some clients one-on-one and I just saw the opportunity. I loved doing it. And I love this business and this work because I help coaches grow their business by being themselves. I think the thing that has so many coaches hate marketing is they feel like they need to be good at tactics and be good at writing hooks. And yes, that all helps. But when you go on podcasts and you just have a conversation, you attract dream clients just for who you are. And those are the best clients, the ones that just like you and they're like, you just are my person. And you're like, yes, I didn't feel like I had to work for that. I just was myself. And that's how I grew. You just get into alignment.
Yeah. And sharing our stories, right? You and I are such big advocates of storytelling, sharing our expertise through stories and through conversation and even recorded or live conversation, right? It just really lets people into a different side of you that they can't access if all they do is read the writing or all they do is there's something about the voice, right? And that voice can build a connection really fast, actually.
Oh, yeah, totally. I really love this medium and having voice to voice conversations because the tone is what helps set the stage and have it brings very important context that is not always easy to get in writing.
Yeah. By the way, what did your dad do? What were you pitching him for?
So my dad's a business coach. So he
Ah,
had when he started his online business in the early 2000s, he was doing newsletter marketing. So he had a company called No Hassle Newsletters. It was done for you newsletter marketing for like professional practices, like lawyers, accountants, doctors, and he grew that really successfully and then started coaching. So yeah, he's retired now. He
wow.
has like a few clients that he talks to a couple times a week.
That's so fun. So
Yeah.
fun. All right, so let's kind of dive into our topic. And, this whole season has been about thought leadership. And one of the things I've struggled with as a business owner now going on 14 years is which ideas am I letting go and which ideas need to be re-envisioned and what needs some new context or just a new way of framing it or thinking about it, right? So, in your own experience and your work with your clients and your own business journey, what is like the litmus test that we can use to determine what we want to be known for? And should we keep doing that? Do we listen to the market? Do we make the pivots? I mean, this is a juicy question all the way around.
Yeah, and I really love these questions because it really forced me to really think about it because there's not a black and white answer to it. So having a conversation is just the perfect platform for this discussion. So I really think it has to do with the what's the energy that the topic is coming from. And I think the litmus test to answer your question is, do I want to be a thought leader in this topic because I think it'll get me more sales and I think this is what people need and want, and I could absolutely be an expert in this. So that's column A. Or is this thought leadership topic a true representation of who I am and why I am on this planet and the purpose I
Mm.
have? It's beautiful when those two things overlap. Hopefully they do. I think for most coaches, there is a nice Venn diagram of those two things overlapping. But I think when thought leadership topics, when we burn out on them, it's because we thought that's what the market wanted. We thought that's what would get us more sales. But then we get to a point where we're like, I just don't care. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm bored of this.
Mhm.
When you
Mhm.
tap into the topic that is truly like why you're on this planet, for you to talk about that and bring visibility to that, you will talk about that till the day you die.
Yeah. Even when it's hard.
Especially when it's hard. I mean, and I'm like, I feel like I'm living this right now because I'm in my 13th year in business. And really up until this year, I have pretty much talked about and done content about the thing that will drive sales for my business. I have talked about the tactic of podcast guesting and marketing. And this year, I was not like a thought out strategy, but I started sharing a lot more openly, started talking a lot more about how I'm growing my business and the changes I'm facing. And I've realized that through sharing stories, still sometimes stories that are in the messy middle, I'm like, oh, I am a stand for sharing, for being visible,
Mm.
for being honest, for helping people see that they're not alone in this journey of growth, of business growth. And it's a lot cleaner to share a story when it's in the past, when it's in the rearview mirror, when you have full 2020 and there's a clean beginning, middle, and end. And you're like, great, here's the story. Here's what I learned from it. It's a lot harder to share stories when you're still sort of in the middle of it. But oh my goodness, the energy of a story that you're sharing still kind of in real time, that's what creates such deep connection with your audience.
Yeah. And it's also what takes the most courage, I think,
Oh,
because
yeah.
you don't have it all figured out, right?
Yes.
Um, I'm gonna just kind of talk for a minute. The hard, I said is it worth it even when it's hard? As a messaging strategist and marketing strategist, AI has made my business very hard, right? People think they can get good messaging, they can get a solid strategy. One thing I just realized, Jessica, about 12 months ago is I'm not debating it anymore. That is not the energy that I want to live in. I'm going to be a stand for people using their voice, developing these unique points of view, being a human, showing up in all the phases of who you are, because that's who we are as thought leaders and as humans and as business owners. And the other day, I was walking along the ocean in Valencia, and a mastermind friend had said to me last week, Shannon, maybe you should just like reinvent yourself outside of messaging and marketing. And my immediate reaction was like, hell no, in my gut. And I have learned to trust that. But when I had some distance and I was out walking, I realized like words and teaching is what I'm born to do. Those two things together, you let me teach and you let me help you with your messaging and your marketing and like showing your true self. There is nothing I love better than that. And it goes to say exactly what you said. It's like if the energy is there, you will find new ways to reinvigorate your work. You will find ways to share. You will call in the people that you're meant to serve because newsflash, there's more people like me
Mm-hmm.
out in the world, right? Sometimes it's hard when you're in the messy middle. So I love that this energy piece is part of it because um, it's not always going to be roses and rainbows and unicorns, especially when you've been in business. We're both gonna hit
Yeah.
15 years soon. We've seen a lot of ups and downs in the space.
Yes, for sure. And I've done a lot of like it's funny because we're talking about how like I love the podcast platform. I love having conversations. And also I've been writing so much more this year and actually saw a post. I want to say it was Marie Forleo, but it was somebody selling some type of course. I think it was her. But it was like she's talked about how writing and like, to your point, really choosing the right words kind of forces you to slow down and think about what you want to say. So it's been a really interesting year because I've been writing so much more, which has then led to podcast interviews and conversations that are so much better and deeper and more meaningful because the podcast hosts who have invited me onto their show have been reading my writing and reading my posts that I've put so much thought into. And then it leads into this, great verbal conversation where we go even deeper. But it's like the best posts that have led to those, podcast invitations and great conversations and people reaching out and wanting to work with me, I didn't start them with like, how do I get the audience to do something? It was like, it was never like, how do I get people that read this to register for my masterclass? Like the best posts
Mhm.
don't start with that. They're just like, I really look at marketing and thought leader. I mean, I'll say marketing as a conversation with my audience. And
Yeah.
when I have something I want to say, I say it. When there's nothing to say, I don't force it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that. And it's this idea of what I would call now, we're in the phase of pull marketing,
Mm-hmm.
PULL. How do we pull people to us with
Yeah.
story, with humanity, not using the same words we see over and over that people just run their stuff through AI, right? Have
Mm-hmm.
quality conversations. This is the pull versus the push, which you and I, God, we lived through push marketing of funnels and bro energy. Like
Oh,
just do this
yes.
and do that, right?
Oh, yes. I just did a post about this actually. I just did my masterclass. I do a masterclass every month on podcast guesting and and like the replays expire at a certain date because I do it live every month. So you don't get unlimited access. So the replays were expiring and I had somebody registered that responded to the text and was like, I ran out of time. Like, can I have another week? This topic just is really triggering because the idea of being on podcasts is really scary to me. Like, I know I want to do it, but I'm like, I have to take my time. And I said, you know what? I've, a past version of me would have just pushed her and said, just get over it. It's not scary. It's not scary. Like just gaslit her into thinking it's not
Yep.
stressful. Like, just do it. Just push yourself. But I'm like, you know what? Stop. take a couple weeks, regulate your nervous system. I gave her a free tool that I have access to. I said, go try this for 2 weeks and then come back again in mid-April when I do it again. It'll be a totally different experience. And she's like, thank you, like 5 exclamation points. So like,
Mhm.
yeah, I think push marketing is done. It's pulling people in with story. And I totally agree with what you're saying. Like AI has made a lot of businesses a lot more challenging. Like messaging and marketing and content, it's a lot harder when you have this AI monster making everything lightning fast. But I think that light is going to die out. People are going to realize that the audience is sick of AI content and stories are going to really, I mean, I
Mm.
already see it. Storytelling, I've been saying it all year so far. Like 2026 is the year of storytelling. That is the way you're going to stand out, is telling your story. And AI can't write your story for you.
Yeah, no matter how hard you try. I've tried.
I know. And I will say it can be helpful. Sometimes I'll write a post and I'm like, Claude, what's your feedback on this? And he's like, it's a little abrupt from this paragraph to paragraph. Okay, what, little copy
Yeah.
edits it can be helpful for, but just to go back to the whole topic of this episode, which is like long-term thought leadership, your long-term thought leadership has to come from the core of who you are, from your heart. And so when you tell your story, that's who you are. And I just, to give an example, Lewis Howes, big name in podcasting and, business and personal development. And, I remember like seeing him at a conference back when I was like first starting out 2014, and he was big then, but he's huge now. And I started listening to his podcast just a couple weeks ago. Um, and I'm like, wow, I really like, I get it. Like, I get why he's so popular because he's so open with his story. He's like talking about his journey. I'm like, that's why he has such a raving fan base, is because he's not just touting a bunch of like how to's. Like, he's actually being really open about his story and his journey and his battle with the ego and all of this. And I'm like, yeah, the school of greatness is like, he is a student in the school of greatness. That's why his thought leadership is standing the test of time, is because he's a constant student of this school. His podcast is called The School of Greatness. So I just think that's a
Mhm.
great example.
I love that. So I know you and I very much believe in at some point we just have to test ideas and messaging. Like we can only do it in AI for so long. Thinking in our office, sticky notes everywhere. This is my office, right? Like I've got more sticky notes than like the store that hosts that sells
Yeah.
all the sticky notes. So I often tell my clients all the time, like I use social media to see and validate which ideas are going to have legs, which messaging is going to land.
Yeah.
It's a courageous act because the ego wants the likes and the comments, and there's many of my posts that they don't have anything, but it
Mhm.
tells me what I need to know. So how do you, I know you are a proponent of people using podcast interviews as a testing ground. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
Okay. Well, first, I just want to share, as you were speaking just now, in my head, I'm thinking about this email that I sent out the other day to my list. And I wrote this and I was like, this is such a good email. Like, I was so proud of it. Like, like lower the normal open rate, the click through, like zero clicks in the email. And I'm like, okay, well, sometimes you just don't know. Like,
Exactly.
you're like, that was a work of art. How did nobody click through that email? But I just want to share that because we all create content and put out messaging that we think is a work of art and that is going to change people's lives. And then it just totally flops. Or maybe it landed in their mind and they just, anyway. So I just had to share that because it happens to us all. I love podcast interviews as a way to test messaging because you can craft content. You can put together a message in writing and workshop it and edit it and have Claude review it and all of this stuff. And you put it out there and see what the clicks are, see what the engagement is. But it doesn't quite nail it in the way that if I'm on a podcast interview, I'm in a live conversation, I'm answering questions, like responding, the energy, like I know instantly. Like I don't know if you do like human design at all, but
Yeah.
okay, so I learned I'm a sacral authority, and so I can know like my sacral. Like if you don't know human design, just like think about like your gut, your intuition, like your energy. I will light up if I'm talking about a specific topic. And there's topics that I've had on my podcast one sheet, like topics that I'm suggesting that hosts interview me about, where I like create them with my booking agent on my team. And I'm like, okay, I think this is the right topic. And then I go on an interview and they ask me about the questions and I get off and I was like, ugh, that kind of drained me. And I was like, oh, wait, I wrote those topics. I don't want to talk about that. Like, I'm like, who wrote these questions? Oh, I did. Let's um, so yeah, you can get this. I like the podcast interview format because right in the moment, you can see if you're lighting up and you're energized by it, or if you're just like waiting for the interview to be over.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that I've worked out entire frameworks and bodies of work just having intelligent conversation with somebody that was asking me questions that maybe I hadn't asked myself or I forgot because,
Mhm.
I have ADHD. I have conversations with myself all the time that I do not remember having. Um, so being able to just be in the flow. And I think, from a marketing and a messaging perspective, and maybe you have some tips on this or you talk about it with your clients, but I've started asking for the podcast transcript, uh, the raw transcript from the person that I'm a guest for,
Mhm.
because sometimes there's conversation that happens before that I'm like, oh God, that was really good. I should work that in somewhere. But I like the raw, real language of it before the polishing. And so there's some really good content opportunities there to flesh out ideas even more, I think, when you're in conversation with somebody.
Oh, totally. Yes. What you say when you are responding to questions is oftentimes things you never would have written if you're writing a post or doing a video, just speaking to camera. I remember years ago, my former business partner, she saw a quote graphic from one of her podcast appearances. Like the host made a graphic of something she said, and she's like, who said that? We're like, you did. And she goes, I don't even remember saying that, but it was something that she said in response to the host. And it ended up being like a really great quote. It was something that we used in our messaging for years. So that's another reason to use the podcast format as a way to kind of test your messaging and to workshop ideas. I've had clients that come up with a tagline for their whole program because it was a phrase that just came out in conversation. And they're like, oh my God, it's a perfect way to describe it. Or maybe a host says it, a host reflects back to you what they heard you say and they put it in a different phrase. And you're like, oh, I like that. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I always tell my clients all the time, like, get your little AI bots or whatever, because when I'm doing messaging reviews or content reviews, either one-on-one or in the program, I will get like the most inspired idea by something someone says, and I can turn it into a tagline, and 30 seconds later, I do not remember what I said.
Exactly. Yes, I
And
totally agree.
so, yes, always have your little recording device if you're in a conversation with people who love words and messaging, because I often say I can pull out that $1 million message for someone else just by hearing them talk, and just that's my gift, right? That
Yep.
is my gift to the world.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Before I ask you this next question, I just want to share with the audience what I believe a really good definition of thought leadership. It feels good for me because I know it is it's kind of a buzzword, unfortunately. Like some people are like, you can't claim to be a thought leader, and then other people are like, yeah, you can be a thought leader, and then some people are like, there are no original thoughts.
Yeah.
So I want to give my definition before we go into the next question. So, if you're listening today, what I consider a thought leader is somebody that is an expert at what they do, and they are devoted to it and dedicated to it, to furthering more people to be exposed to this idea or these thoughts. One, to make the world a better place. Two, to change some conversation. But I think the most important thing for me is that you have so much expertise in this topic that you can explain it where people can experience it in a very tangible, real way. You're not talking over the tops of heads. You can break things down so that people understand. This is my definition of thought leadership.
Yeah.
This is what I love. So, having said that, what mistakes do you think coaches, consultants, strategists, and trainers should avoid when they're claiming their thought leadership in any given area?
Let's say, so kind of what we talked about earlier, like, don't, your thought leadership is not the thing that's going to drive sales always necessarily. Like, if you're like, oh, I'm going to be a thought leader in this because I think it's going to drive more sales, it's not going to last forever. It's like lighting a little tea candle. It's going to burn out in a few hours, maybe. So you don't always know. And I think also there's a difference between authority and claiming your authority and claiming your expertise, which is something we can all do. And sometimes thought leadership comes a little bit later. I don't think you can force thought leadership. I think you can claim your authority. And sometimes the thought leadership is sort of like a crown that is given to you at a certain point. You don't always know when that's going to be. I don't think a coach can start their business and start creating content and say, I'm a thought leader in this thing. I mean, you could do whatever you want. I don't, but I think thought leadership is like, you look back on over a decade of work in a consistent area and you can see like, your thought leadership is in, messaging and teaching and like the magic of words, like that's clear. But for a coach that's just getting started, you may not know what you're a thought leader in yet. So just
Exactly.
know the distinction between your authority, your expertise, and then your thought leadership is something with, I think, a lot more nuance and something that stands the test of time.
Yeah, I often say too, like bodies of work, right? I think those of us who have been at this a long time, we often have many bodies of work. Like I've got a body of work in the format of a book about joy and how to have more joy in your life. It has nothing to do with business. I mean, kind of it does. My
Yeah.
business is Joyful Business Revolution, but how do I go about living my day when the world is a shitstorm and I want to have more joy? I mean, it's a very good
Yeah.
question, right? And then I've got bodies of work. I tuned into a YouTube discussion last night with four artists, and I don't know. Have you ever heard of something called the 100 Day Project? Have you
No.
heard of this? Okay, so it always happens around this time of year, and I'm always never complete it because I get bored in 100 days. But the goal, so to speak, is that for 100 days you would show up to either one project or you'd create little things that make up a body of work. And it was really interesting hearing these four women talk about where they are in the process of this 100 day project. And I just had this light bulb go off, Jessica, and I was like, God, this year I'm doing tiny terrariums where I'm sketching tiny terrariums and I've done 10. We're on day 42. I've done 10, y'all, but 10 is more than I've ever done in a 100 day project. And they were saying, like, when you can look back over years and it doesn't matter if you did 10 of one thing one year and the next year you got to 70, you're creating bodies of work in your art that never existed before. And I was like, this is why I love messaging and what I do, and also I can translate it over to art because over time our thought leadership will shift and grow and change if we have the energy around it. And I think
Mhm.
that is a big key that people need to leave with today on the
Yeah.
episode.
That's beautiful. I love that concept. And I just love your story of like the joyful business revolution. I do see that through line in all of what you do because you always have the biggest smile and you are a Sam for it. Like you live in Spain, you're walking along the water. Like I do see that whole connection. I think, and when you share stories like that, I think it's a great example. Whenever I'm on a podcast, it's always very meta because we're kind of like talking about what we're talking about.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
but I just think that's a great example for your audience to hear that when you share that story, like there's joy in it, there's mess. I don't know. It's hard to put into words, ironically, but I just love that story.
I love that. So, how does showing up as a thought leader in the right niche, some people say niche,
I
I'll say niche,
know it's
um, change the quality of leads and clients? And this is such a beautiful question because we can spend a lot of time on podcasts and not get much of a return if we're not careful. So, how
Yeah.
do we look for those niches, or how does your team look for those niches, and why is that so important?
Yeah. I mean, when you are really you're in the zone, you are so clear on your like what you're a thought leader in, you know what your purpose is in sharing your story, and you're doing that and it's all landing, you attract clients who are wanting to work with you for who you are. That's what my dad always taught me in business. He always said, your best clients will hire you for who you are, not what you do. Another way of putting it is I'm in the middle of listening to the audiobook Start with Why by Simon Sinek. And so his way is start with why. Your customers will work with you for your why what why you do what you do, not just what you do and what your packages are. And so when you attract clients like that who are hiring you because of who you are for your why, they are loyal. They love you. There's such a deep connection. I feel like there was probably another part of your question that I didn't answer, but I got kind of carried away with how passionate I am
No,
about starting with your why and like being who you are. You just attract people. It just you become so much more magnetic, and you get people
yeah,
like out of their head and into their body, because when they're just pulled to you, that magnetism is down in the heart, not up in the head.
exactly. Yeah, and so I think that is a very, very important first part of this question. And then to follow on to it is, why do we need to take this passion and this energy in our heart to the right niche to
Mhm.
get quality leads and clients and not just go spread it everywhere that we can?
Yeah, because your business is not for everyone. You are not for everyone. And another piece of this, the reason it's so important to be in alignment with what you're talking about in your ideal client is that when people come to work with you for who you are, they feel safer with you. There's also like a nervous system element. Like they feel safer, they feel more seen by you. Like I've been talking more about my spirituality this year in my content, and I've attracted clients who are like, oh, like they just feel seen by me because of me being more vulnerable and open about my story there. And so it makes the business just so much more enjoyable and meaningful because you're working with clients who are just the right fit. And so from kind of like a tactical standpoint, you have to really tap into who you are and what your why is, because your ideal client isn't just a demographic, it's also a psychographic. And the
Mhm.
psychographic are the things that aren't, it's not their age and their gender and where they live and how much money they have, but it's like, what's important to them? One of the questions that I've been asking on my discovery calls over the last couple of days, which I think you'll really like, is I ask people outside of your business, what gives you joy? And I
Oh,
love asking that question because I used to say, like, what's important to you? And they're all like, I want more clients. And I'm like, no, 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 no. That's not what I'm asking. So I'm like, let me change the question. I'm like, what brings you joy? And the way people light up and tell me about themselves, like, I had this whole conversation with this guy. He has a marketing company, right? Marketing guy, wants more clients, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what gives you joy outside business? And he tells me all about how he loves like antique things. He invests in these like gold dog tag necklaces that are found at the bottom of the ocean. And we had this whole conversation about how we love like antiques. It was
I
like,
love that.
I was like, oh my gosh, like I know him. I know he values old things. You know what I mean? And so we found this like shared value and interest that I never would have discovered if I was just like, cool, he checks all the boxes. He has the right amount of revenue. He has the right type of service. Like, find out what gives people joy, and you will discover who you have alignment with.
Mhm. I love that. Um, when I help people with I call them the three messaging pillars, right?
Mhm.
These would be the things that you're gonna talk about over and over and over and over again. We do two professional and one personal. And people are always surprised by that. But here's the thing. The reason I talk about joy is one, I'm passionate about it. Two, I think I have a unique perspective. Three, I want the world to be a more joyful place. Like there's a lot of reasons that I'm passionate about joy and want to share my own experience even when I'm not in joy. How do I get back to that place of joy, right? So I want to say to everyone listening to the show, Jessica is exactly right when she said your best clients will hire you for who you are, not necessarily what you do. I want you to find that thing, whether it's the dog tags or the joy or the cooking
Mhm.
or blocking your whole weekend off to eat chocolate chip cookies and read a fiction book from start to finish. We need more human
Mm.
from people.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the best way to be standing out right now, and I have said this for 13 years, but it is even more true with AI. The best way to stand out is to share the parts of you that I can't get from a search somewhere, the human
Yes.
parts, right?
Yes.
The very human parts. So I wanted to reflect that back. And I think what the opportunity for all of us is as we close out this podcast episode is to think about, yes, I am known for messaging and marketing, but what else am I passionate about and where can I kind of turn the volume up a little bit more? Like everyone knows the messaging and marketing right now out there in my world, but maybe I need to go talk for a while about joy.
I would. I think you should.
I think I'm going
Because
to.
yes, because yes, you will attract ideal clients because it won't just be people that are like that. The people you attract by talking about joy more aren't the people that are just going to use AI for their messaging. They're the people that know that AI doesn't know what makes them joyful. I think that's beautiful. And I just like I feel that in my heart. Like I know that sharing who you are, sharing your personal joy, especially we're talking to coaches, we're not talking to people making widgets and selling them on Amazon. Like this is about attracting clients who are going to spend time with you and who want your brain and your energy. And you have to share who you are and your personal story, what interests you, what gives you joy. I like one of the things I talk about is like being a mom. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't really travel for business. Like I don't really leave my house that much. Like it's very important to me to be home. And so I tend to attract clients that feel the same way, that have kids, that have a family, that, I don't attract clients that are like, no, put me on a plane. I want to be on a plane every day to go to top tier podcasts. I'm like, that I am not your girl for that because I have no interest in that.
Yeah. So, Jessica, I have to ask you, what is bringing you joy today outside of work?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so I am on book 3 of the Virgin River series. So
Oh,
Virgin River, I found it. It's a show on Netflix and it's sort of like a guilty pleasure. It's like kind of like a soapy like love story type of show. And I finished the series and they have it was adapted from a book and I
yeah.
am eating it up. I mean, it's a love story. There's thrill. Like that's what I was doing all weekend when I was just chilling. Not entire weekend, doesn't matter. But I'm just on my Kindle just loving Virgin River, this novel series. It is so good. I'm just like, I want to finish work so I can go read Virgin River.
Oh my God, that's when you know you're in a good book, right?
Oh,
You're
I
like
love it
thinking
so
about like,
much.
oh, I can just get 5 minutes in. What happens? What happens?
Like this little escape. It's this small town on a river in Northern California, and I just go there in my mind, and I love it so much. It just fills my cup up.
I love that. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for joining me today on the Grow Your Business for Good show. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about your world, connect with you on social? Where's the best way for them to hunt you down?
Oh, thank you for having me. This was really fun. Interviewconnections.com is my website. That's kind of the home base. Like you can attend my free masterclass. The link is always at the top of I always have a banner at the top of like the next masterclass. So you can come and learn from me. And I'm on all the socials and, LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. Just you can search my name or my business name and you'll find me. But yeah, interviewconnections.com.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We have one more episode in this series on thought leadership, and I hope you've been enjoying it. Let me know. Come and find me over on LinkedIn. Please rate and review the show, and we will talk to you soon. Adios.
Thank you for listening to Grow Your Business for Good. This show is a part of our work at the Joyful Business Revolution, where we help founders and leadership teams rebuild messaging systems when their work has outgrown their message. If you're explaining too much and people still don't fully understand the value of your work, you can explore more at joyfulbusinessrevolution.com.
Until next time, remember this: when your messaging system is aligned, sales conversations shorten and your expertise comes through clearly.